welcome back, Susan.
Hi,
It's good to see you again.
you too.
And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the deep sea diver stage of the 7 stages of circling. And so I'll just give a brief overview in case this is the first video that people stumbled on of ours, and let you know that we are the Circling Institute. We teach a method of authentic communication called the circling approach, and it does have 7 stages in it. And the first stage is sovereign, or like the more I get to know me, the more I can get to know you. The more connected I am to myself, the more connected I can be to someone else. And that kind of lays the foundation for the other stages to emerge. And like the second stage is an explorer stage that is all about getting the other person's world or getting their perspective, understanding their perspective. You move into warrior, which is about seeing what hasn't been seen, noticing patterns, noticing things that might be in the periphery or in the blind spots. And then the module that we just did a few weeks ago is called Deep Sea Diver. And Deep Sea Diver is about feeling what hasn't been felt, or feeling what hasn't been fully felt. And so we go from noticing into letting ourselves fully feel it. And so, we teach a year-long course that has 8 modules, and we are in, I think, the sixth of the 8 modules, which is the deep sea diver. And so I'm excited to see like your own experiences of the deep sea diver, whether it's the preparatory videos or the in-class stuff or the applications to your real world and real life after. I'm excited to hear anything you want to share about your experience of this stage of the circling model that you've been studying for the past few months.
Yeah, thanks for that review. Um, yeah, it's almost like where do I begin? So Dan, my husband, and I are both in AOC 13. And the great thing about that is that as things change for me, they change for him. And as things change for him, they change for me. So, and the deep sea diver weekend, let me back up. Before the deep sea diver weekend, I was finding that the feedback I was getting from the coaches was about almost like the meta of it was that I was being too intellectual and not feeling enough, not
Mhm.
expressing enough of that feeling and not getting in touch with the other person's feelings enough. And I think that happened because I'm learning about circling. And so that learning process causes a different part of me to be more present. And that part is like the thinking part.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's interesting, before I started the AOC program, I was doing some circling with some people, and it was less like that. It was more embodied, more
Right.
feeling based. And then when I started the program,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
went way up into my head and was having trouble like relating to people from my heart. And
Mhm.
um yeah, so I came into this deep sea diver weekend being mostly up in my head, but the good thing was that I realized it. So in my pre-circling coaching, when the coaches would say, what are you working on? What would you like me to coach you about? I was telling them I've been up in my head. I need to like relax more and just feel and be in the moment and be present. And so that's kind of what I was working on when we entered the deep sea diver weekend. And as I said, Dan and I are doing this together, and part of what's been happening to us over the last 5 years, just personally, is more of a return to a spiritual kind of being. And um and as Dan connects more to spirit, I'm also connecting more to spirit. As I connect more to spirit, he connects more to spirit. So in this particular weekend, Dan was the circler, and I was actually in a room with him as a participant, and I could
Mm.
watch him circling. And he is the kind of person who processes reality on multiple levels. And those multiple levels often helped him to really understand people in a very deep way and in a way that a lot of people don't see themselves and in a way that other people don't see the other person either. So in this particular circle, I mean, I I don't think it was recorded, but it really should have been because
Was it the one where John was the coach?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. He just did this excellent job and like it felt to me in the circle like spirit was just supporting everything that he said and did and was also holding the circle E. And the whole time, even though I was just a participant, in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. He's doing such a great job. This is awesome. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm going to have to circle somebody next. And I have this
Yeah.
great example, but I
Mhm.
also have this great example that I feel like I have to maybe like live up
Live
to.
up to, yeah.
So when it came time for my circle where I was leading, I said to the participants and my coach at the beginning the thing about being too up in my head. And also, I named the fact that I came into the circle a little bit nervous because I had just seen this awesome
Yeah.
example of circling and I felt a little bit intimidated. And I also felt really inspired because he had done such an amazing job. And I was like, I want to do that too.
Hmm.
And I want to relate to people that way too. So it was really helpful for me to name at the beginning of the circle that I was coming in that way because it gave me permission to relax more, to allow more, and to be more of a vessel than an orchestrator.
Yeah, yeah. Like the to me, by me, through me.
Yeah.
You're
Hmm.
kind of transitioning from like by me to through me.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
it felt like. Hmm.
Allowing circling to move through you rather than being like, oh, these are the steps and this is what I need to do now. Which sounds like that's where you started. Like before you knew there was a model with steps and stages, you were
Right.
able to just be in the flow of the experience. And then when you learned, like, oh, yeah, okay, there's stages and there's components of each stage, you kind of got hyper focused on those, which pulled you up into your head. And
Yeah.
now it sounds like you've become comfortable enough with the stages and the tools that you can bring your intention back into like I've got this in the background. I'm just gonna let it flow. Trust
Yeah.
my instincts and trust my presence and let the model flow through me as I my my intention and my focus is in being with this person.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, perfect. I love it. It's
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah. And it sounds like that would be easier. It's almost like I noticed my body relax when you're like, yeah, it was just moving through me. I wasn't having to like effort at it or try it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I'm
Yeah. And
glad
the
you're having
I
that
think
experience
I think some of the efforting was taking away from the experience for
from your
me.
presence. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of people can relate to that. Like when you're trying to do something, it pulls, your energy and your focus out of the experience. And it's
Hmm.
almost like you are less like present and
Hmm.
like real than
Hmm.
if you weren't trying. Like
Yeah.
if it weren't
Hmm.
so important to you, you wouldn't be
Yeah.
trying. Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Huh. Yeah. I think a lot of people will relate to that, Susan.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So then once the circle started, I think I did a really good job. I did some recaps, and one of the things, I don't remember if it was Warrior or the Deep Sea Diver weekend, but one of the things that we learned about was trying on somebody else's experience. And so I did that a couple of times with a lot of success and a lot of resonance for the Circle E. I was able to come up with some metaphors for their experience that resonated really well for them, that came up for me in like images
Hmm.
and like a felt sense that I relayed to them and they resonated with. And we ended up at the near end of the circle with the circly giving her inner children what they wanted and needed. So, yeah, we got to like feeling what they hadn't been feeling. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
Wow. And it sounds like it felt real natural and more at ease for you. And that it allowed you to like access more of your creativity and more of
Yeah.
your personality. How
Yeah.
was and what how was that experience different for you than maybe some previous experience? Like what did you notice? Like,
Yeah, I noticed that it felt more relaxing, just the whole thing. Like I wasn't in previous circles, I would be like, while the person was talking, I'd be like, oh, what am I going to say next? How am I going to respond to this? Should I respond with a question? Should I respond with a sovereign share? Should I do explore and ask them more questions? Should I, name a feeling? Like, and just kind of thinking about what I should say next. And instead, here, I just was trying to be as present as I could be with the Circle E and what their experience was, and just kind of feel into whatever made sense to say next.
yeah, and not putting so much pressure on yourself to pick the right thing
Yeah.
as opposed
Hmm.
to, and it's funny, like I know we're talking about circling, but I think people can say the exact same thing about just regular conversations. Like especially, with a lot of the people that I work with are like re-entering the dating world, like in their 40s and 50s, like after a divorce. And that's an experience that they will have. Like they're sort of listening to someone talking to them on a date, but in their head, they're like, okay, well, what do I do next? Like what's the next question I can ask? Or what are they wanting from me? Am I supposed to share next? Or do I ask them more
Yeah.
questions? And they're like
Right.
missing the connection, they're missing the information. And then so I love this. Like, it's not just about circling. This is about relating in general. I love that you're picking up on like, oh, I used to be in my head thinking about what I need to do next. And I'm totally missing out on just being with them in the moment with what they're sharing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like when you allowed yourself to just be with them, like what to do when they stopped sharing or they, came to a pause, just kind
Mhm.
of like organically revealed itself to you.
Right. Right.
And you didn't have to pick the right thing or the good question or the
Right. Yeah. And what I'm noticing more and more as I do this circling process is that there isn't one necessarily right thing to do in every pause,
yeah.
right? It's just what arises in the moment. And if I plan it too much, then it actually detracts from the circle.
Yeah, like the organic magic of like
Yeah.
doing what you're inspired to. It's funny. I noticed my shoulders relax as you were saying, like if I just let it arise, like I don't have and also the idea that there is no perfect question or perfect response or right response.
Mm.
There are dozens of available ones and like trusting that whatever you're inspired to do will, serve in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. And then um the feedback that comes up is like, well, you could have done this or you could have done that, or this would have been an option and this would have been an option. And so it's not like, okay, if this happens, then you should do this. Or if
Mhm.
this comes up, then you should do an explorer, you should do a sovereign, or you should, it's like, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. And so it felt more natural to just let whatever came up come up, and instead of like, oh wait, this person, the circle he just said this, and so I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really like the idea that um, because there are a multitude of
Yeah.
available, appropriate responses, it gives you permission to stop having to find the perfect one or the right one. And you're like, oh, and I can just do what comes naturally to me. I think a lot of us can benefit from that, taking that approach to the world. Like, hey, I don't have to think about the right thing to do. I can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
do what feels alive for me in this moment and trust that it's going to be, good enough.
Yeah. And then the
Mhm.
other really cool thing that happened afterward, and I don't know if this was like a few days later or so, or longer. But Dan and I were talking about the circling weekend and about how it had helped him to show up more authentically as himself. And he was saying that the deep sea diver weekend was a really healing weekend for him. And he's like, so he was like, I don't know if it was like that for you. And it's almost like this realization came to me in that moment when he said that he was experiencing some integration of himself. But I was like, oh, like all of this that I just discussed with you kind of came to me in a rush. And I was like, yeah, I feel transformed by this weekend too.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can take the feelings, this relaxation, the self-trust, the trust in reality, and bring it into everyday life.
Yeah.
And yeah, so hearing him talk about his experience made me realize and deepen my own experience. And while we were talking, I was lying down on my stomach, and like my body posture all of a sudden took on this very childlike posture where you're like leaning on your elbows with
Mhm.
your feet bent and your like feet kicking in the air.
Yep.
And then the next thing I noticed was like I kind of put my hands closer together so they made more of a triangle as I was leaning
Mhm.
on my shoulders, on my elbows. And then my feet also, instead of being like that childlike kicking
Mhm.
thing, they kind of came together like this.
Mm.
And I started to feel in my being more like a butterfly. This is going to sound out there, but like I had this sacred medicine journey a while back where part of it was me feeling like I had the arms and legs of a dragonfly or a butterfly.
Mhm.
And so now having this experience where my body just kind of gravitated to that position, I was like, wait a minute, I think I'm taking on more of this body posture of being that butterfly dragonfly. And I feel like I didn't necessarily feel the wings yet, but I felt more of the arms, legs, and body of it than I had felt in that journey that I had taken.
Wow.
Yeah. So like my whole body posture changed into this thing that was
Yeah, and also like like the sturdiness of
Yeah.
like the triangle or the pyramid strikes
Mm-hmm.
me as I listen to it. It's like, oh, it went from being something like, childlike and like flitty to
Mm-hmm.
being something really solid and sturdy and supportive.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that image really resonated with me. Yeah, and also this like the transformation I was really
Mm-hmm.
struck by of
Yeah.
this in two ways, Susan. One, of like how you can have a lived experience that like presents a new way of being for you or a new possibility or a new perspective. And then you can't go back. It's like you can't unlearn it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, like once I've felt myself in that space, like now I'm familiar with that space, and this idea of the freedom to not have to get it right and then just to trust that there are a multitude of appropriate things I could do right now. And so I'm just going to let myself instinctually choose one. Like it's hard to go back to like the perfectionism or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
perseveration.
Yeah.
That really struck me. And then the other thing that I really love, and I think this can be true not just for like taking a personal growth program together, but for almost anything. I think this is a really like beautiful pointing out exercise for couples and maybe even like friends or family members of like even when you go through something together and you were both there, you both
Yeah.
experienced it. If later you start talking to each other of like what was it like for you and what did you get out of it? Like it's like you both kind of like had your eye on different things, but when he shared like, oh, here's what I got, you're like, oh, did I get that too? Or like, here was the part that I liked, and like, oh yeah, now I remember that. And so like
Mm-hmm.
just that reminder of like even when we go to see a movie together or we like go to watch a concert together or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of like, yeah, it's really valuable to talk to the other people who are there with you about how it occurred for them and what they got out of it because
Yeah.
there's a value add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that's great about these weekends is that the facilitators always leave time at the end of each day to bring in our voices and just talk about what we've learned or what
Mhm.
we notice or whatever, because there's so many little gems that you can take from those moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do like to have integration discussions after any like major segment because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, especially on these training weekends where you're, with us for 6 hours, if
Mm-hmm.
we don't pause every 90 minutes to have an integration discussion, you might just like blow through 6 hours and get two things out of it. But we have to
Mm-hmm.
we got to stop and chew and swallow and stop and chew and swallow and metabolize each chunk because we don't want you guys to miss anything. We don't
Yeah.
want to get anything to be lost in the hustle and bustle of the full day. I love that you're appreciating that. And I like this. I think this is going to give me like renewed energy and focus in the integration discussions. Like sometimes, after doing this for 20 years, I forget how valuable it is to hear someone else say, "Oh, yeah, and here's what I got." And here's what I got. Because you know what you got. But then when you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, I got my own version of those things too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there really is a power of doing, it's funny, I'll share, of doing things in a group. I just had a moment where I was like, am I going to say this out loud? I don't want to discourage anyone from doing the self-study programs because those are great too. But there really is something to be said about having like a dedicated cohort of the same 25 people who
Yeah.
show up week after week, like practicing together and like how you all elevate and educate each other
Mm-hmm.
in ways that I don't know is available for someone who's, doing it solo. It's like not that you're not going to get nothing out of that, but it's like
Right.
in the public programs that aren't self-study, you get all of the things you get from self-study and the benefit of the community.
And
Point
I've
that out.
noticed over the course of the program that my cohort mates are also,
Oh no.
I don't know why my computer turned off. Sorry.
All right, we're back.
Um,
So you notice your cohort mates.
yeah, I noticed my cohort mates are improving also, and I'm noticing their growth, which is
Mhm.
really cool to see. Like the person that started out the program being kind of timid or quiet or unsure of themselves, they seem so much more natural now and so much more
Mhm.
relaxed.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's cool to watch.
I was just gonna say that sounds so fun and rewarding too. Like as we're
Hmm.
learning around us beside each other, not only to see your cohort mates' growth, but imagine, oh, I just got goosebumps even just thinking about this. Imagine how powerful it would be, if you want to do this now, or, it will be a part of the integration and art of completion in June, to actually be able to say to your cohort mates, here is the growth I've seen in you. And here's what I have been moved by or
Mm,
impressed by,
yeah,
like just imagine this in getting that feedback from like
yeah.
it's one thing to notice it in yourself, but to have
Hmm.
it reflected to you from others, just how precious that can be.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that you're tracking it already. So you have a little you'll have a little edge on the rest of your cohort mates when it comes to the final weekend in the art of completion, where you're like, oh, I've already been keeping track of what I want to say to whom and what I want to acknowledge in people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Anything else you want to share about Deep Sea Diver or about your experiences in the weekend or after the weekend that you think would be valuable for our community to hear about?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The sun is like
Yeah, no
following me.
problem.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that Dan and I are both noticing is that after each of these weekends, there's an integration for us where we have learned something new about ourselves or about each other, and we're taking that into ourselves and growing and changing from it. And then usually after that, there's this, I'll call it an episode of like contraction. where we're struggling with being or whatever in different ways. And so knowing that this cycle has been going on now for the last 6 weekends or
Yeah.
whatever, now we're like, okay, here's what we can expect.
Right.
We can expect that there's going to be this awesome integration, and we can also expect that there's going to be this contraction
Yeah.
where things are going to be difficult
Yeah.
or tricky or whatever because this new thing in us has opened up, and that leaves room for other negative things to surface.
Yeah. To raise to the surface and either be
Yeah.
like, because they want attention now, and then they can
Mm-hmm.
either be like addressed or healed
Mm-hmm.
or, you
Yeah.
know, yes, it's so funny because I spoke to Dan a few like earlier today, and so it makes sense. You guys are a couple of like Dan and I had a similar conversation about expansion and contraction, and but I think we didn't point out in that video that I love that you're pointing to now is like when we know that that's going to happen and we kind of like adjust our expectations, you can actually like embrace it and work with it
Yeah.
opposed to like resisting it or
Yeah.
judging it,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to expect the contraction and I know that there's probably some silver lining or some sort of like,
Right.
insight or gold to be mined at the,
Right.
at the, you know, um, other side of the contraction. And so when it
Yeah.
comes, you don't judge yourself for like as frustrated because it can still be
Right.
frustrating. Oh yeah, what a beautiful insight and
Yeah, because
possibly
it's like if you were going into child labor and you didn't know childbirth labor and you didn't know that there were going to be contractions and then they were there, you'd be like, what is
what is
going
happening?
on?
Yeah. And then
Right?
it calms down and you're like, oh, good, it's over. And no one
Yeah.
tells you, like, oh, that's going to come back in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, well, if I know it's going to come back in 3 minutes, I can be
Yeah.
prepared and not as upset about it.
Right. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you for that, Susan. I think I might, well, I think I may share that with the entire cohort, when we meet for midwife in May.
Yeah.
But I will definitely make a note of it to share in foundations for every future. Because I know I say,
Yeah.
oh, be gentle with yourselves.
Hmm.
After a weekend, you might want to, plan a light Monday. But I don't know that I actually explicitly say to the participants, and you may be riding a high for a while and
Yeah.
then notice a contraction where like
Hmm.
old patterns will come up or like younger, like less developed ways of being will come back. And
Yeah.
that is a normal part of the process. It is
Yeah.
an expected part of the process. And like that's part of the expansion and contraction. And if you can
Yeah.
weather the contraction gracefully, it'll make more room for the next expansion.
Right. Yeah.
I think I'll add that to the foundational spiel
Yeah. That would be helpful because
because it
we
took
have
you
to
guys
figure it out on our
four or
own.
five. It took you guys
Yeah.
4 or 5 rounds of
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
upset to
Yeah.
learn to embrace it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah, because we
imagine
were like, what is going on? Like after every weekend, we're having this like high, and then we're having these lows, and like, is it us? What is going on? And after like 6 of these weekends and 6 of these cycles, Dan was like, I think we're going through cycles of integration and then contraction. And I was like, yes,
I think
that
this is
is
a natural,
definitely what's
expected
going on.
process. I think
Yeah.
this is a completely normal, expected process here. Yeah, and there is nothing wrong. Yeah, and this is why we say a lot, like I'll always say, like context is king. It's like, and that's a bit of the deep sea diver as well, of like, oh, like this new perspective, this new perception, this new way of holding the expansion and contraction emerges on the other side of being with it. And again, it has forever changed your experience.
Yeah.
Like for all future experiences of this are going to have a slightly different flavor now that you've had that like aha.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Susan. I think that's a beautiful pointing out for all of us in our community, not just in circling, but in so many personal growth endeavors.
Hmm.
Whether it's like romantic relationships or the actual like formal education. It's like, oh, you'll have this big opening experience of expansion, and then there's going to be the contraction. where some
Yeah.
stuff comes up and it's going to feel more difficult. And like, can we be gentle with ourselves around that?
Right. Right.
Embrace it as part of the system.
Yeah, because what actually ends up happening is you have this integration, it gives you more capacity in some way, and then you have this contraction. And because you had the integration with that new capacity, you can handle the contraction differently than you could before.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're starting to see, oh, what I just learned or what I just integrated is helping me with this contraction. And it's just helping me in everyday life,
Yeah,
you know?
another
Yeah.
layer, another
Yeah.
layer, another
Mm-hmm.
layer as
Yeah.
we evolve.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that, Susan. I think this has been really rich and insightful.
Thanks.
Anything else that's on your mind or any last things you want to share with me or the community? Anything you want to say for
Um,
yourself in order to feel grounded and complete?
no, I'm just looking forward to the last few weekends and two or three. I guess it's
So we
two.
have two more. Yeah, we have two more training weekends.
Yeah,
And
I'm
who
really
knows?
looking forward to them and learning more about how to close the circle and bring in participants and all of the rest of the nitty-gritty.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. I'm looking forward to seeing you there as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.